Got a lot to get into, and I guess we'll start with Raw. We got 3 weeks left until SummerSlam. We appear to have some matches. It was a very bizarre show in the sense that they did a three-way with 3 of the 4 guys in the main event for SummerSlam. At the top of the second hour, at the main event of the show, I realized that Big Cass is big. I realized that the Big Show is big. But why did this show end with this match, with the finish that they gave us here? I couldn't even believe it.
Well, the truth is that Enzo and Cass do real well in the quarter hour ratings. So they felt confident enough, and we'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow if that third hour, doesn't drop, because I could certainly see. I was very surprised when they put that 3-way, at the start of the third hour, because I just thought that the rest of the show is going to kind of fall flat, and the Bayley match with Nia was just dying out there, afterwards, and then Big Show and Cass. I don't know. It wasn't terrible or anything, but I don't know. I don't know. It's like the whole portrayal of Enzo is just so weird. He's a baby face that, has other guys try to get revenge for him, and then he, tries to get involved, and it's like he is really popular, but the way he's booked to be like I don't know, like a very annoying heelish character, even though he's really popular and he's the baby face and he sides with the baby faces and his partner's a baby face. It's just very weird to watch, because it's like the whole thing is about Cass and Enzo. Who knows what's going to happen to Enzo anyway? I mean, there's just all kinds of different ideas that have been floated for him, none of which are, which a lot of people would consider positive career directions, but that's just how it is. You could just tell that, Vince is not going to give this guy any credibility, and a lot of the wrestlers don't particularly like him, so that's not helping matters either. But he does get good quarter hours, and he gets the crowd going every time, and people like him, and he sells a lot of merchandise. So that's the thing that may keep him on the air. But my God, okay, so if that's the case, why book him to be such a loser? But they did, and a babyface loser, which is the worst, and they do. And that was quite the weird ending of the show. I thought that some of the stuff was pretty good. I mean, overall, it was just a normal show that, like every week, by the third hour, it just feels like it's too long. And I wasn't really, negative about anything particularly much other than the main event. But just putting that match there instead of the Roman Reigns match. But I'm sure they have their reasons, and maybe they just were like, hey, we want people to watch the Roman Reigns match, and probably more people are going to tune out by that point if we put it on last. Well, that's a real kind of a defeatist attitude to have, but there's a reality.
Sure is.
But there is a some reality to that, I think. And, so that's what they did. I thought 3-way was pretty good, pretty darn good. I think Joe is really I don't know. I think he completely outshines the other 2 guys, but he's still, like, in their minds, I think they think he's the least, what's the word, valuable of the 3, in the sense that, like, when that match started, it was just like, man, the crowd's like, this is Joe's time, and at the same time, it's like, but they're not going to have Roman take the pin, probably. It's possible that they would. For sure they're not going to have Strowman take the pin because they're protecting him. So that leaves Joe to take the pin, and Joe took the pin, and they may, bounce it around and do other things over the next couple of weeks, but, I don't anticipate Strowman taking any pins. I did think that the Paul Heyman interview to start the show was pretty darn great. So that was a highlight. And then I thought Miz was very good in carrying the Jason Jordan segment, but as every week goes by, that Jason Jordan thing is feeling like more and more of a bad idea.
We'll open up with Kurt Angle coming out to open up the show, and noted he's in his hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Talked about the show tonight. Big Show Cass, Miz TV with Jason Jordan, Joe, Braun, and Roman. Thanked the fans, and as he's leaving, Lesnar's music hits. The place goes crazy. So Paul does his promo, and he says, I understand what your angle is, Kurt. You're trying to take the title off of Brock. There's no other reason you would be putting him in a 4-way at SummerSlam. It's the most stacked heavyweight division in WWE history. He says that Kurt is trying to make him pay the ultimate price, and he says if Lesnar loses the title at SummerSlam, he's going to leave WWE. So basically, without saying the words John Jones or UFC, it's kind of storyline. If Brock loses, he's going to go fight John Jones in the UFC. And then...
Well, he's playing on the idea that people are thinking that.
He did, however, insist that he was not losing at SummerSlam.
Well, he has to say that too, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. Throughout the show, they had promo packages for all three guys hyping up the 3-way later. And Braun's in particular was just preposterous. He's this big giant. They have him saying all of these long sentences, big words, totally verbose. I'm just thinking, this is not how I picture Braun Strowman, but that's his character now. I guess he's an intelligent giant that likes to destroy things when he gets mad. We had Gallows and Anderson versus the Hardys with the Revival on commentary. Gallows ended up super kicking Jeff to get the heat, most of which was during the break. Matt got a hot tag. Heels go for the Magic Killer. Jeff breaks it up. And then Matt hit the Twist of Fate on Gallows. Jeff hit the Senton. They got the pin. So the Revival had spent the entire match talking about how the Hardys would never be able to do any of this to them. And they jumped the Hardys on the stage. Gallows and Anderson end up getting involved. The Hardys tossed Dash and Anderson off the stage. They gave Dawson a Twist of Fate. And then Jeff did an assisted dive off the stage onto Dash and Anderson. So it looks like we're going to get a 3-way championship match or
3-way number one contenders.
Yeah, number one contenders match at SummerSlam.
Right. Yeah. That looks like where they're going. Yeah, it was fine. It was good. To set up a 3-way, it all worked out fine. They still kept Gallows and Anderson, even though they kind of got beat in the match and then in the post match, but it was all right.
Renee interviewed Dean about last week, and she wanted to know if Dean and Seth were getting back together. And Dean is kind of waffling, and Seth walks up, and he says, listen, we were great last week, fighting side by side. It felt like old times. And Dean says, listen, I don't trust you. I had eyes in the back of my head the entire time. I got burned by you once, and it will not be happening again. And Seth was very sad. So they go to commercial, they come back, and Sheamus and Cesaro are talking to Seth, and they say, you know what, we couldn't stand each other at the beginning, but now we're best friends, and you want to know why? Because we can trust each other. They said Seth stabbed Dean in the back. Dean was never going to trust him or anybody else ever in his life, and they mocked him for being all alone.
They said that they're going to do a TV show with Seth called Ride Alone.
Well, I hope they do that show because I think Ride Along's canceled.
Well, it may be. They're canceling a lot of stuff. So there's major cutbacks going on all over WWE right now because the gist of what happened is that they promised everyone that they were going to have bigger profits this year. So last year's profits were about $30 million, and this year we're halfway through, and it's about I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's like $5 or $6 million, which means there's a lot of catching up to do. And to do so, they got to spend less. So that's why there's no pyro. That's why a lot of the shows on the network are being canceled because they're trying to lower production costs because the network is not growing at the rate that they expected it to. And it's not like they're not in any financial trouble, but the network, the network subscriber number is a genuine disappointment. And the growth coming out of WrestleMania that would have been expected wasn't there. And I think that they realize that there's essentially what they're trying to do is like the pyro. I think the mentality is that we're spending a ton of money on pyro and it doesn't add any money to the bottom line. No one is watching our television show to see pyro. No one is going to our house shows to see pyro. It's nice and well and good, but we don't need it. And everything will be that we're not going to lose any money by not having it, and we're going to save money by not having it. So that was kind of like the mentality there. And, and then a lot of the shows on the network, realistically, I'm not really sure, like, what their mentality is, because some of those shows do pretty well, but the one thing is that we have learned is that the 2 pay-per-views a month, that has not helped, because you instead of 1 pay-per-view most months, now you have 2 most months, but the network number is not growing the way that they expected it to. So that's been a bad situation, but I don't think they want to drop I don't think they want to drop one of the pay-per-views, because I think that would hurt ratings a little bit, because the less big shows, when you have a longer period between big shows, there's less excitement on the show, and less direct building of angles. So because of that, you know what I mean? It's and plus, when you come off of a pay-per-view, you have a better rating. And so, that artificially bumps the ratings.
Well, not always.
Not always, but most of the time you do. And you've been doing it lately. So I think that all of those things kind of add up to why they want to keep doing the brand-specific pay-per-views monthly. And those are added expenses that, as far as that they didn't have